Okay, so continuing on now, I like to boil my lids. These are lids for people that don't know. These are lids that go on. These are bands that just hold them in place, basically. Okay, I like to boil these for about 5 to 10 minutes. Number one, to sterilize them. Number two, it has a rubber seal that goes around it, and I'll show you real quick. That rubber seal, it softens that up so you get a much better seal on your jar, and you know, so that it will seal. And these bands, you do not tighten all the way down. Like you don't need to like Superman it on there because it only goes on there, if Grace could ever get this right. Anyway, these bands go on. Just, till the jar starts turning. That's all. Because what's going to happen is this seal, that's what's going to vacuum seal. This is just holding it in place. So even after these seal and you want to store them, you do not need to keep the bands on them. It's a preference. Some people like to leave them on. I leave them on. This year, I might not leave them on, depending on how much canning I do. But again, these just go on very lightly because you don't want them too tight, because when it's in your water bath that I have going over here, you got to allow room for what we learned in science class, boys and girls, expansion, right? What happens when you heat up water and then you cover it? There's going to be steam, okay? It needs to escape, so you got air inside of here that needs to escape, and also in the pan, so don't do them too tight. They'll seal on their own. Again, the lid, the band. Okay. And everything is all sterilized. The bands, you do not need to sterilize. Some people do, it's a preference. I normally don't do the bands just because, number one, it's not touching anything. It's not touching the rim. The rim has already been wiped off. The jars are already sterilized. Everything in there is in that hot brine. Everything is good to go. So what I do with these, I just get a warm paper towel. Unless they're totally disgusting, of course I would, sterilize them. But mine aren't. I store them in a Ziploc sealed bag. So I just get them out and I wipe them down with a wet paper towel, not a big deal. Again, not real tight. And this is what it yielded, okay? So out of all of that asparagus, sorry about that, I think I messed up my camera there. Out of all of that asparagus, this is what I ended up with. So, you will go through a lot. So say you wanted to do 20 jars of pickled asparagus. Yeah, you're going to need a whole lot of asparagus. So you better get out there and be ditch diving, because it's way too expensive in the store. This is free, all except for the ingredients, obviously, that I had to buy. So I just wanted to show you this part of it. I have my water bath going, which I will do for like anywhere from like 12 to 15 minutes on these. And then you just get them out with your tongs. Make sure that you have a pair of tongs. Just be very careful when you're canning. It's very easy to burn yourself. So make sure that you're being safe using tongs. That you put your towel down. I will have a towel on the counter because it's way too hot. You don't want to burn your counter. You don't want to accidentally break something and then, have that hot, fluid going on you and create, second or third degree burn, whatever. So just be safe while you're canning. And don't forget your lid. After you put your jars in and you lower them down on the rack, make sure you put your lid on, because Grace always seems to forget, and it helps it to get a good seal going. Make sure too that you are using a rack. It comes usually with the water bath, that comes as a little, kit. if you call it that, you know, as a pot, comes with that. Because the pan will get too hot on the bottom if you don't have something separating it, and you could break a jar. So make sure that you're using a rack. That really helps the process. Okay, most of them again come with it, but if you had a, you know, an old pan like this, an old pot like this one, you know, and you were, you know, looking to can and you didn't have that in there, you really do need to go and buy one of these. And they're very nice. You know, they got the little indents on them, you know, so it can sit up in the pan. And then as you are loading, your jars in, you know, it just sits up there like that. Make sure that you kind of balance it out. The other thing I was going to tell you, I looked for jars like these ones. Are a little bit taller and a little bit thinner than the whole quart jars there. I wanted to pick up some more of these just because I think the asparagus, you can leave them just a tad longer than with the other jars as far as cutting them down and making them fit inside the jar. So anyway, this is what I'm doing. And, you know, if you want, you can, at this point, you know, you could take it and, you know, mix it up, and, you know, you really don't need to, because you can always do that afterwards. You know, all the flavor's going to be in there, you know. And my pan will usually only hold 6 of these big jars. I mean, I guess if you had a smaller one that you could stick in the middle or something, which I don't, but you could do that. But mine only holds about 6 of these. And like I said, the other one's a little bit smaller. I'm gonna put this one in the middle just because, see how full it is? Yeah, I might have room for, I could maybe stuff one more in there, like right there. But again, I only ended up with these 6 jars like that. So I'm gonna, you know, my flame is going on that. Snickers says she's helping me, but she really isn't. She's not, you know, she's not at all. I know. I thought the same thing. Snickers. I did. You didn't help at all. Nope, I asked you to cut up the asparagus and you said, no, I gotta go play with my toys, Mom. Yeah, I know. So anyway, I got this going. It's been going for probably about a half an hour or so. I think the water is, you know, it's pretty hot right now. And I will put this down, and make sure that you don't fill up your pan like all the way with water either. Because once all these bad boys go down, all of that weight, obviously, again, science class, what happens? Yeah, the water's going to rise. Yeah, so you don't want it to go all over, you know, your stove and everywhere. And again, burn yourself possibly, you know, so just be safe about it. You know, mind how much water you're putting in your pan opposed to the jars, you know, the weight of the jars that you're now putting in, you know, because, you know, it's going to displace the water. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I will come back and show you after they get all done and everything. We'll take them out with the tongs, and then of course they have to sit overnight, anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. You know, I usually put them out on a towel, and then these the vacuum seals, the little bubbles in the middle, you'll start to hear those pop throughout the night, you know, and it kind of sounds like a, you know, like that, or a ping ping, you know, you'll hear it. And then, you know, at 1 o'clock in the morning after I get done watching scary movies and stuff, I'll be hearing that ping ping, and then I'm going to be grabbing my Bible, running through the house thinking, you know, something's wrong, you know. Yeah, that happens. So anyway, just remember that, you know, that pinging sound that you hear, or that suction sound, that will be your lids sealing. Okay? All right. Love and light. I'll see you soon.